The Taik Empire discovered Earth on what would have been an ordinary Tuesday for most humans. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the massive warship Thunder Fist. His eyes narrowed as he studied the blue-green planet on the view screen. The ship's sensors had detected radio waves, primitive satellites, and the unmistakable signs of an industrial civilization. "Another world for the glory of Emperor Park," he murmured, running a finger along the edge of his ceremonial collar. The collar, adorned with 27 gemstones, represented the 27 worlds he had personally brought into the Empire. Earth would be the 28th. "Magnify Sector 4, he ordered, and the view screen zoomed in on North America. "Their largest military power is here, yet their defenses are laughable." He chuckled, showing his pointed teeth. "They still use combustion engines and projectile weapons." His second-in-command, Officer Sung, appeared at his side with a data tablet. "Full report on the humans, Admiral. They've barely reached their moon. Most of their weapons are chemical-based. Their most advanced technologies are primitive computers and nuclear devices." Admiral Kim's laughter echoed across the bridge. "Perfect. They'll make an excellent addition to our resource planets. The Emperor will be pleased." The communication array chimed. Emperor Park himself was calling. The bridge crew straightened as the Emperor's hologram materialized before them, tall, imposing, with ceremonial face markings that glowed slightly in the dim light. "Report, Admiral Kim." "My Emperor," Kim bowed deeply. "We've discovered a new world, rich in resources, and inhabited by a species that calls themselves humans. They pose no significant threat to the Empire. I recommend immediate integration." Emperor Park's expression remained neutral, but his eyes gleamed with interest. "Another jewel for our collection. Proceed with standard diplomatic protocol. If they resist—" He let the sentence hang unfinished. "They will not resist for long, my Emperor." 3 days later, the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session as a silver disc-shaped spacecraft, nearly a mile wide, hovered silently over New York City. Fighter jets that approached it were disabled by some invisible force and gently lowered to the ground, engines dead. Diplomat Han, chosen for this mission because of his imposing height and authoritative demeanor, teleported directly into the UN chamber, causing an immediate uproar. His skin had a bluish tint, and his eyes, 3 of them, blinked in sequence as he surveyed the room. "People of Earth," Han began, his translator device converting his words into all Earth languages simultaneously. The sound filled every corner of the chamber, somehow both whispered and thunderous. "I bring greetings from the Taik Empire, rulers of 342 star systems across this galaxy arm." The Secretary-General stood shakily. "We welcome you in peace," Han's upper eye blinked. "Peace is available to you through submission. The Taik Empire has selected your world for integration. Your resources will serve the Empire, and your people will be protected. This is an honor. Many worlds are simply harvested." Screens around the chamber displayed images of Taik warships destroying cities on other planets, followed by massive machines stripping entire continents bare. "Your options are simple," Han continued, seemingly oblivious to the horror on the faces around him. "Surrender to the Empire and survive as a protected resource world, or resist and be destroyed. You have 7 rotations of your planet to decide." Half a world away, Dr. Lee hunched over her instruments in a hastily assembled laboratory beneath Seoul. Government officials had brought her here the moment the alien ship appeared, hoping her brilliant mind might find some advantage. Through a powerful telescope connected to sophisticated analysis equipment, she studied the Taik ship hovering over New York. "The energy readings are unlike anything I've ever seen," she murmured to General Choi, who stood stoically beside her. "But there's something strange about their shield configuration." "Strange how?" the general asked, leaning closer. Dr. Lee pointed to a pattern in the energy readings. "It pulses. Every 6.7 seconds, there's a slight fluctuation in the shield's northwestern quadrant. It's almost like—" She bit her lip, thinking. "Like a heartbeat. A weakness?" General Choi's eyes widened. "Maybe. Or maybe it's intentional. A trap for anyone who might notice." She brushed a strand of hair from her face. "We need more data." For the next 5 days, as world leaders argued and militaries mobilized, Dr. Lee barely slept. She collected readings from the ship, analyzed its communications, and developed theoretical models of how its technology might work. Meanwhile, smaller Tyche ships appeared over other major cities, hovering silently, watching, waiting. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence was a constant reminder of the choice Earth faced. On the sixth day, the United Nations reached their decision. Representatives from 192 countries voted unanimously. Earth would not surrender. When Bijatzi's diplomat Han returned to receive Earth's answer, he found the chamber filled with grim-faced leaders. "We have considered your offer," the Secretary-General announced, voice steady despite her fear. "Humanity will not kneel. We reject the terms of the Tyche Empire." Han's three eyes blinked in sequence. For a moment, something like respect flickered across his alien features. "Many species submit immediately. Your resistance is unexpected." He inclined his head slightly. "It will also be brief." As Han teleported back to his ship, Dr. Lee made her breakthrough. "The shield fluctuations create a pattern, like a code," she told General Choi excitedly. "If we can decipher it, we might find a way through their defenses." "How long will that take?" the general asked. Dr. Lee looked up at him, her eyes reflecting determination and fear in equal measure. "Longer than we have, the Tyche are coming, and tomorrow the war begins." The attack began at dawn. Tyche warships appeared in the skies over military installations across Earth, their hulls gleaming like burnished metal in the morning light. For 3 heartbeats, they hung motionless. Then, brilliant blue-white beams lanced downward. At Ramstein Air Base in Germany, Colonel Yu watched in horror as the energy weapons sliced through hardened bunkers like they were made of paper. Combat aircraft, the pride of Earth's air forces, exploded before their pilots could even reach them. The base's missile defense system fired automatically, but the projectiles simply vanished in flashes of light as they approached the alien vessels. "Get everyone to the underground shelters," Yu shouted as the command center shook. The ceiling cracked, raining dust and debris on the frantic personnel below. Similar scenes played out at bases in Nevada, Siberia, and the South China Sea. The Tyche attack was methodical and precise, targeting military capability with surgical efficiency. But the aliens had made a critical error. They'd left the communications infrastructure largely intact. "They want us to see what's happening," General Choi realized as reports flooded in from around the globe. "They want to break our will." Instead, the attacks galvanized humanity. Within hours, scientists and engineers worldwide were sharing data, pooling resources, and developing countermeasures. The Tyche had expected panic and capitulation. What they got was ingenuity born of desperation. In her underground lab, Dr. Lee hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned, but she couldn't stop now, not when she was so close. "The shield patterns," she muttered, staring at scrolling data. "They're cyclical. Every 7 minutes and 13 seconds, the frequency shifts through a predictable sequence." Her assistant, Dr. Gill, peered over her shoulder. "If we could predict the next frequency, we could disrupt it at exactly the right moment," Dr. Lee finished. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, programming a simulation. "We need to build a device that can emit a counter-frequency pulse." 3,000 miles away, in what remained of a research facility in Arizona, Dr. Wang had discovered something equally important. "Their stealth technology bends light and radar in a very specific way," he explained, during an emergency video conference with military leaders. "If we modify our radar systems to scan in overlapping patterns and adjust the frequency by 0.03 gigahertz, within 12 hours, modified radar installations began tracking the previously invisible Tyche scout ships that darted between the larger warships. Aboard the Thunder Fist, Commander Bay approached Admiral Kim with obvious reluctance. "Sir, the humans, they're adapting faster than expected." Admiral Kim looked up from the holographic display showing the progress of their attack. "Explain." "They've modified their radar systems. They can track our stealth ships now." Commander Bay swallowed hard. "And they're developing new weapons. Some of our scout ships report being targeted with unusual energy signatures." Admiral Kim's eyes narrowed. Impossible. These creatures were launching chemical rockets just decades ago. Nevertheless, sir, the data is clear. They're adapting to our technology at an unprecedented rate. Increase the attack tempo, Kim ordered. Destroy their research facilities next. I want this planet subdued before the next cycle. But the humans were already putting their discoveries into action. In Seoul, Captain June led a special forces team armed with Dr. Lee's newly created disruptor. They positioned themselves on a rooftop near the Han River, where Taik scout ships frequently passed on their surveillance routes. Remember, we'll have only a 3-second window, June reminded his team. The disruptor, a bulky device that resembled a satellite dish attached to a car battery, hummed with power. Once we fire this, they'll know we can hurt them. A scout ship appeared, sleek and predatory, gliding silently between the skyscrapers. It was smaller than the warships, about the size of a bus, with a curved hull that seemed to shimmer slightly, the visual effect of its shield. "Target locked," whispered Seo, the team's weapons specialist. She had modified a surface-to-air missile with components from the disruptor's prototype. "Ready when you are." Captain June waited, watching the timer. Dr. Lee had calculated exactly when the ship's shields would be at their most vulnerable. Now, the disruptor fired, emitting no visible beam but causing the air to waver with distortion. For a brief moment, the scout ship's shield flickered, becoming visible as a pale blue bubble before fading again. In that instant, Seo launched the missile. The projectile streaked toward the scout ship. There was no explosion when it hit. Instead, the missile seemed to simply pass through where the shield should have been. It struck the hull directly, and the scout ship jerked sideways as if slapped by a giant hand. Smoke poured from its underside. The ship wobbled, trying to maintain altitude, then plunged toward the river below. It hit the water with a massive splash, steam billowing up from the impact site. For a moment, Captain June's team stood in stunned silence. "We did it," Seo finally whispered. "We actually did it." The news spread across the global resistance network like wildfire. A Taik ship had been downed. The invaders weren't invincible after all. Within hours, similar ambushes were being prepared in cities around the world. The downed ship in the Han River became a frantic research site, with teams working to recover and study the alien technology before the Taik could respond. On the Thunder Fist, Admiral Kim received the news with cold fury. "How?" he demanded. "How has a primitive species damaged one of our vessels?" "Unknown, sir," Commander Bay admitted. "The scout ship's data stream cut off suddenly. Something interfered with its shields." "Impossible," Kim snarled. "Their technology is too primitive." "Apparently not, sir." Light years away, Emperor Park received the battle updates with growing displeasure. In the 300 years of his reign, no species had ever offered effective resistance past the first day of conquest. "How has a primitive species damaged one of our vessels?" he demanded of his war council. The council members exchanged nervous glances. None wanted to be the bearer of bad news. "Perhaps," ventured one brave advisor, "we have underestimated these humans." Emperor Park's eyes flashed dangerously. "Then we shall show them the full might of the Taik Empire. Send the Devastation Fleet. I want this resistance crushed immediately." But as the Devastation Fleet prepared to depart for Earth, humanity was already building more disruptors, studying the captured scout ship, and preparing for the battles to come. The war had only just begun. The Devastation Fleet arrived with the subtlety of an apocalypse. 5,000 Taik warships darkened the skies above Earth, their massive hulls blocking out the sun in some regions. Dropships descended by the hundreds, carrying ground troops and battle mechs. This was no longer a show of force. It was conquest. "Full planetary assault," Admiral Kim ordered from the bridge of the Thunder Fist. "Target their power grids, water systems, and remaining military installations. Break their will to resist." But in the months since the first attacks, Earth had been preparing. Dr. Lee stood in the center of a repurposed sports stadium, now serving as humanity's largest reverse engineering facility. Around her, scientists from 30 nations worked on various components salvaged from the downed scout ship. The vessel itself hung suspended from massive cranes, partially disassembled, its secrets gradually revealed. "Their entire command and control network depends on this." Dr. Lee held up what looked like a small crystal, pulsing with inner light. It's a quantum entanglement communicator. Each ship has one, linked to every other ship in the fleet. General Choi studied the device. Can we listen in? Better. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time in weeks. We can disrupt it. Across the globe, Earth's remaining military forces deployed with new weapons and tactics. Traditional armies were now supplemented by hastily trained civilian tech teams operating advanced electronic warfare systems. Fighter pilots flew conventional jets retrofitted with salvaged Tyche technology. And beneath the waves, submarines carried special payloads designed specifically to target the invaders' weaknesses. The Tyche were unprepared for coordinated resistance. Their battle doctrine, developed over centuries of easy conquests, assumed enemies would fragment under pressure. Instead, humanity united. When Tyche forces attacked Beijing, defenders in New Delhi and Tokyo provided remote electronic countermeasures. When London came under assault, European defense networks operated as one integrated system. They're jamming. Our communications, Commander Bay reported, his voice tight with concern. Fleet cohesion is dropping to 80%, 70%. Admiral Kim slammed his fist on the command console. Impossible, their technology is too primitive. They've adapted components from our scout ship, Bay replied, and they're deploying them with surprising effectiveness. The first major human victory came in the Battle of the Pacific. Admiral Kim had positioned the Thunder Fist and 3 support cruisers near Hawaii, preparing to obliterate the U.S. Pacific Fleet's headquarters. His sensors showed only a handful of primitive submarines in the area, no threat to his advanced warships. Begin the attack sequence, he ordered confidently. Beneath the waves, Captain Dahl peered through the periscope of the submarine Defiance. What had been a standard attack sub 2 weeks ago now bristled with retrofitted technology. The quantum disruption array, Dr. Lee's creation, hummed in the background. Target locked, the weapons officer reported. Disruptor at full power. Fire sequence alpha, Dahl ordered. 6 specially modified torpedoes launched simultaneously from the Defiance, and 3 other submarines positioned strategically around the Tyche formation. The torpedoes didn't aim directly for the alien ships. Instead, they created a geometric pattern around them, each detonating in sequence. Aboard the Thunder Fist, alarms blared. Shield failure, a technician shouted. Propulsion systems offline, Admiral. Kim watched in disbelief as his tactical display showed all 4 Tyche vessels suddenly vulnerable. Impossible. The second torpedo wave struck directly. Designed to penetrate the now disabled shields, they attached to the hulls and drilled inward before detonating. The Thunder Fist shuddered violently. Water began pouring in through multiple hull breaches. Systems failed across the massive vessel as it began to list heavily to one side. Evacuation protocols, Admiral Kim ordered, but it was too late. The ship's anti-gravity systems failed completely, and the Thunder Fist, the pride of the Tyche fleet, veteran of 100 conquests, began its descent to the ocean floor. Admiral, Kim's escape pod barely cleared the sinking vessel. As he watched his flagship disappear beneath the waves, something unfamiliar gripped him. Fear. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Major Sun led a daring mission that would change the course of the war. Selected for her exceptional technical skills and trained in the alien language patterns discovered from the scout ship, she commanded a stealth insertion team targeting a Tyche command vessel in orbit. Using a captured Tyche shuttle with modified HFY codes, Sun's team approached the massive command ship Eternal Dominance. Steady, Sun whispered, as their small craft docked with the larger vessel. Remember the breathing patterns we practiced. Walk like you have 300 years of Imperial confidence. The disguises, crafted based on footage from the downed scout ship, were far from perfect. But combined with the electronic countermeasures developed by Dr. Lee's team, they might just be enough. For 6 terrifying hours, Sun's team moved through the labyrinthine corridors of the alien vessel. Each encounter with actual Tyche crew members brought them to the edge of discovery. Yet somehow they reached the central data core. 2 minutes, whispered tech specialist Gong as he connected their extraction device to the Tyche systems. Their security is exactly as we predicted. The data transfer completed, just as alarms began to sound throughout the ship. We've been detected, Sun realized. Plan B. Rather than attempting to retreat to their shuttle, the team raced deeper into the ship, toward the secondary hangar bay where smaller scout vessels were kept. Tyke security forces converged from multiple directions, their energy weapons scorching the walls where Sun's team had been moments before. "In here!" Sun directed her team into a scout ship similar to the one that had crashed in Seoul. Thanks to weeks of studying the downed vessel, they knew exactly how to power it up. As they blasted out of the hangar bay, pursued by Tyke interceptors, Sun began transmitting the stolen data back to Earth. "Their battle plans," she sent. "Complete tactical layouts for the next 3 waves and something else." She paused as she reviewed a particularly interesting file. "The Empire is not as stable as they claim. There are rebellions on at least 7 worlds. Resources stretch thin. This invasion is a desperate move, not a show of strength." Sun's ship took a direct hit, shields failing. "We won't make it back," she realized, "but the data will." With a final maneuver, she activated the scout ship's emergency beacon, modified to broadcast on Earth frequencies, and ejected the data core just before their vessel exploded. When the data reached Earth's military command, it revealed not just the Tyke's tactical plans, but their strategic vulnerabilities. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity could see a path to victory, and across the stars word began to spread that the mighty Take Empire had met its match in a supposedly primitive species from a backwater planet called Earth. The recording of Admiral Kim's defeat spread through the Take Empire like wildfire. Though Imperial censors tried to block it, underground networks passed the footage from world to world. The mighty Thunder Fist sinking into Earth's ocean, defeated by what the Tyke had dismissed as primitive technology. On Mira, a desert world that had been under Tyke control for 3 centuries, the local governor watched the recording with growing alarm. "Delete this immediately," he ordered his security chief. "Anyone caught sharing it will be executed." But it was too late. In the Itis, sprawling mines where Mirans extracted precious minerals for the Empire, workers whispered about the blue planet that fought back. Small acts of resistance began. Production quotas missed, equipment mysteriously malfunctioning, Tyke overseers finding their breathing masks sabotaged. On Altair, a lush agricultural world, the resistance was more direct. Inspired by Earth's example, farm workers attacked a Tyke garrison with improvised weapons, overwhelming the shocked Imperial troops through sheer numbers and determination. Similar uprisings flared across a dozen worlds. Some were quickly crushed, but others gained momentum, tying up Imperial resources and creating a growing crisis for Emperor Park's regime. Minister Jin, the Emperor's chief advisor, entered the Imperial throne room with visible trepidation. But the Emperor had executed 3 messengers in the past week for bringing bad news. "Speak," Emperor Park commanded from atop his raised dais. The ceremonial lights cast his face in harsh shadow. "My Emperor," Jin began, choosing his words carefully, "the situation has evolved. The Empire now faces active rebellion on 12 worlds, with unrest reported on 7 more." Emperor Park's eyes narrowed. "Because of this Earth? Their resistance has become a symbol," Jin admitted. "The data breach from the Eternal Dominance has revealed military deployments that we cannot possibly fulfill. Our enemies now know where we are vulnerable. Enemies we have controlled for centuries." Park stood, his ceremonial robes rippling with embedded technology that made them appear to flow like liquid metal. "How has one primitive world caused this much disruption?" Jin hesitated before answering. "They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. They take our technology and reimagine it in ways our engineers never considered. On Earth, that adaptability had reached new heights. In the same stadium-turned-laboratory where the scout ship had been studied, Dr. Lee stood before a device that hummed with otherworldly energy. What had begun as the quantum entanglement communicator from the scout ship had evolved into something far more sophisticated. "The breakthrough came when we stopped trying to copy their technology exactly," she explained to the assembled military and scientific leaders. "Their quantum entanglement system is limited by their understanding of subspace geometry. We applied our mathematics to their hardware and created something new." She activated the device, A holographic display appeared, showing star systems and worlds far beyond Earth's solar system. We've established contact with resistance movements on 3 Tyche-controlled worlds, Dr. Lee continued, and we've detected communications from at least 8 others. They're watching us, learning from us, rising up. General Choi studied the display. Can we coordinate with them? Share tactics? Better than that, Dr. Lee replied. We're sending them our shield disruption technology and our modifications to their weapon systems. What took us months to develop, they can implement in days. The news reached Emperor Park during his war council. His response was immediate and absolute. Deploy the Imperial fleet, he commanded. All of it. I want Earth reduced to ash. Fleet Commander Wu, the Emperor's most trusted general and veteran of countless conquests, bowed deeply. It shall be done, my Emperor. Earth will be a cautionary tale for any who dare resist the Tyche. The Imperial fleet that assembled was awe-inspiring. 300 capital ships, each larger than a small city, accompanied by thousands of support vessels and fighter craft. It was the largest concentration of Tyche military might in 500 years, but Earth was waiting. In the 3 months since Major Sun's sacrifice and the data breach, humanity had transformed its defenses. Salvage Tyche technology combined with human innovation created a planetary defense system unlike anything the galaxy had seen. When the Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, they detected something unexpected, a defensive line of satellites and small craft extending from Earth's moon to Mars. Primitive defenses, Fleet Commander Wu scoffed from the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Wrath. Begin the advance. The Tyche fleet moved forward in their traditional diamond formation, a battle arrangement that had conquered worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their first volley, designed to overwhelm Earth's defenses, discharged as they passed the orbit of Mars. What happened next stunned the Tyche commanders. Earth's defensive line didn't try to block the incoming fire. Instead, the satellites and small craft projected overlapping fields that caught the energy blasts and redirected them, straight back at the Tyche fleet. "Shields at 60%, cried a Tyche technician, as the Imperial Wrath shuddered under its own reflected firepower. Wu snarled in frustration. "Reconfigure weapons! Change formation!" But the rigid Tyche battle doctrine, unchanged for centuries, made adaptation difficult. As they struggled to reorganize, Earth launched its counterattack. Fighters emerged from hidden bases on Mars and the Moon. Unlike the previous human craft, these vessels moved with impossible agility, employing hybrid technology that combined Tyche energy systems with human design innovation. They're not following any predictable attack pattern, Wu's tactical officer reported with growing panic. We can't establish a coherent defense grid. General Choi, coordinating the battle from Earth's unified command center, watched with grim satisfaction. The Tyche expect us to fight by rules, their rules, but humans have always been good at changing the game. The battle raged for 12 hours. Tyche capital ships, designed for overwhelming force against conventional opponents, found themselves swarmed by smaller craft that targeted specific vulnerabilities identified from the stolen data. When the Tyche adapted, human forces would immediately shift tactics. In the final phase of the battle, a special forces team led by Captain Jun executed a daring boarding action against the Imperial Wrath itself. Using short-range teleportation technology, reverse-engineered from Tyche systems, they bypassed the flagship's outer defenses and fought their way to the bridge. Fleet Commander Wu found himself surrounded by human soldiers wielding weapons created from modified Tyche technology. "Surrender!" Captain Jun demanded. For the first time in his 300-year military career, Wu did something unprecedented for a Tyche commander. He surrendered. As Wu was escorted to a detention facility on Earth's moon, he asked his captors a question that had been haunting him since the battle began. "How did you defeat our fleet?" "We have conquered 1,000 worlds with those tactics," Captain Jun considered the question. "That was your mistake," he finally answered. "You expected us to be like the 1,000 worlds that came before. We weren't." The news of Fleet Commander Wu's capture sent Emperor Park into a rage that shook the Imperial Palace. Ancient artifacts shattered, as his fists pounded the command table, holographic displays flickering under the impact. 3,000 years of conquest, he snarled at his terrified advisors. Hundreds of worlds brought to heel. And you tell me this backwater planet continues to resist? No one dared speak. The Emperor's personal guard shifted nervously, their ceremonial armor clicking as they tightened their grips on energy weapons. "Prepare the Doom Star," Emperor Park finally ordered, his voice cold with deadly purpose. "I will deal with this Earth myself." The Doom Star was the Empire's ultimate weapon, a mobile battle station the size of a small moon, capable of focusing the energy of a captive neutron star through a planet-killing primary weapon. It had been used only twice in Imperial history, each time ending a widespread rebellion with a single horrifying demonstration. As the massive vessel prepared for departure, Minister Jin made one final attempt at reason. "My Emperor, perhaps we should consider diplomacy." Park interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. "The humans executed diplomacy when they refused our initial terms. Now they will face extinction. On Earth, humanity prepared for what they knew would be the final confrontation." The capture of Fleet Commander Wu had provided invaluable intelligence about the Doom Star's capabilities and weaknesses. Dr. Lee hadn't slept in days. Her laboratory team worked around the clock, modifying Earth's defensive systems to withstand the coming attack. The Doom Star's primary weapon creates a quantum singularity that destabilizes planetary cores, she explained to General Choi, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "Our standard shields would be useless against it." "Then we're doomed," the general said quietly. Dr. Lee smiled for the first time in days. "Not necessarily. We've developed something new, a quantum reflector grid. If it works as designed, it should be able to redirect the energy of the Doom Star's weapon." "If it works," Choi repeated. "When it works," Dr. Lee corrected. "It has." Meanwhile, something thought impossible had occurred. Major Sun, believed lost during the mission to the Eternal Dominance, had survived. Her escape pod, critically damaged but still functional, had been recovered by resistance fighters from Altair who had been monitoring tight communications. Using intelligence gathered during her original mission, Sun led a small team of human and alien resistance fighters on the most daring operation of the war, infiltrating the Tyche homeworld itself. The imperial capital was a marvel of technology and ancient architecture, gleaming spires of impossibly tall buildings connected by transport tubes that moved at near light speeds. Security was omnipresent, with scanner drones constantly monitoring for unauthorized presence. Yet Sun's team moved through the shadows, using countermeasures developed from captured Tyche technology. Their target, the Imperial Archive, repository of the Empire's most closely guarded secrets. "The security protocols change every 6 minutes," Sun whispered to her team as they approached the massive crystalline structure. "We'll have exactly 20 seconds to bypass the main entrance before the pattern shifts." The team moved with precision born of desperate necessity. Within the archive, Sun accessed the central data core and began the download. Not just military information, but evidence of imperial atrocities, details of planetary exploitation, and records of resistance movements systematically erased from official history. "Transmitting now," Sun reported as the data streamed to waiting receivers hidden throughout the Empire. Within hours, the truth would reach every subjugated world. The Doom Star arrived at Earth with an escort of 50 capital ships, a force that would have easily conquered most worlds. Emperor Park stood on the command bridge, watching the blue-green planet fill the view screen. "Begin charging the primary weapon," he ordered. "I want Earth's destruction broadcast across the Empire." But Earth was not defenseless. Captain Jun commanded a fleet that seemed impossible just months earlier. Human vessels retrofitted with hybrid technology, joined by ships from Mira, Altair, and a dozen other worlds where resistance had blossomed into open rebellion. "Form defensive pattern Omega," Jun ordered. "Remember, we only need to hold them long enough for the reflector grid to activate." The battle began with a fury that outmatched even the previous engagement. Human ships darted between massive Tyche cruisers, using maneuvers that defied conventional space combat doctrine. Vessels from the liberated worlds provided covering fire, their weapons modified with Earth-designed enhancements. Yet the Doomstar continued its inexorable advance, shrugging off attacks that would have crippled lesser vessels. "Primary weapon, at 90% charge," reported a Tyke officer. Emperor Park's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "Target their largest population center. Let them watch as their home burns." On Earth, Dr. Lee monitored the quantum reflector grid as it powered up. Thousands of satellites in low orbit, each containing elements from the device she had developed, began to align. "Grid synchronization at 85%, she reported. "We need another 3 minutes." General Choi's face was grim. "June's fleet may not have 3 minutes." Above them, the space battle had reached a desperate phase. Captain June's flagship took a direct hit, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. "Reroute power to forward shields," he ordered, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "We need to stay between the Doomstar and Earth." The Doomstar's primary weapon began to glow with terrible energy, a ball of light forming at its focal. "Point! Weapon fully charged," the Take weapons officer announced. "Fire!" Emperor Park commanded, a smile of triumph spreading across his face. The beam lanced out, pure destruction given form, headed directly for Earth. Captain June's crippled fleet could not intercept it. For a heartbeat, it seemed Earth's end had come. Then Dr. Lee's quantum reflector grid activated. As the destructive energy approached Earth, thousands of satellites simultaneously projected a correlated field that caught the beam and bent it back toward its source. On the Doom Star's bridge, alarms blared as sensors detected the impossible. "My Emperor!" cried the tactical officer. "The weapon's energy. It's being reflected back at us." "Impossible," Emperor Park whispered as the bridge view screen showed their own attack returning. With undiminished power, the massive vessel began to break apart as its own planet-killing energy tore through its systems. Emergency pods launched from the doomed battle station, including one carrying Emperor Park himself. As he watched his ultimate weapon destroy itself, the Emperor faced something he had never known: defeat. The war ended not with Earth's destruction, but with the signing of the Galactic Concordat. Representatives from 20 formerly subjugated species gathered in the restored United Nations chamber. Minister Jin, no longer representing an empire but what remained of the Tyke government, signed the document establishing a new galactic order, one based on cooperation rather than conquest. After the ceremony, Jin approached Dr. Lee, who had become Earth's most celebrated scientist. "There is something I must understand," Jin said quietly. "How did you defeat an empire that conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years?" Dr. Lee considered the question. "You expected us to fight." "The way you would fight," she finally replied. "You expected us to follow rules and patterns you understood. That was your mistake. Humans don't play by anyone's rules but our own." 1 year later, the first educational exchange began. Tyke scientists arrived on Earth not as conquerors, but as students, their characteristic arrogance replaced by genuine curiosity. They walked through the same laboratory where Dr. Lee had reverse-engineered their technology, now eager to understand the species that had achieved the impossible. In orbit above Earth, a new type of ship prepared for its maiden voyage, the Concordat, designed jointly by humans and members of the former Tyke Empire. Its mission, exploration rather than conquest, its crew drawn from a dozen different species. As Captain June gave the order to depart, he reflected on how much had changed. Just 2 years earlier, humanity had faced extinction. Now they led an alliance of worlds, their unique adaptability proving to be the galaxy's most powerful force for change. The stars awaited, and this time they would be greeted by cooperation instead of conquest. The end.